So that brings you to this page, and what this table shows is down the left hand side here are all of the different answers that have been submitted. So each of these links represents somebody who logged in and accessed the case. So you can see there's a date on here and there's a timestamp. This timestamp isn't in UK time. I'm not sure which time region it is for, so just bear that in mind. But you can see they're all around the same time. So this was probably a session that was scheduled into the timetable, and what we did is we asked the students to go into these rooms, so all of these codes represent rooms, log in as a group, so a group of 8 to 12 students, and then participate in the case as a group. And when they submitted their answers, it produced this link here. You can see down this side the number of clicks. This is kind of an interesting piece of information, but it's not overly helpful. So what this kind of represents is the number of clicks, literally mouse clicks, that a student had within a session. So some will be more than others, and that's because maybe they went backwards and forwards within a case, so there's going to be more clicks, or they clicked on all the different options lots of times. In my experience, if it only says one click, they probably went onto the case, decided not to go through it themselves, and then closed the web page down. So this doesn't necessarily suggest the number of answers they specifically gave or the number of questions they interacted with, but it does seem to show some kind of level of engagement in terms of 28 clicks are more likely to have given me answers than one click, if that makes sense. So what you can do is, as these are all individual users, you can click on them and obviously view what room A72 had to say about the case. One of the frustrating things of Open Labyrinth is, unfortunately, it doesn't actually combine the answers together, so you can't look at the answers per question. You can only look at the answers per user. So it can be obviously a little bit time consuming for you to go through them all. What some people do is you can actually, if I click on one, you can actually export it into Excel. So some people will export them all into Excel, and then obviously you can look at the answers by question. Hopefully this will be something that's changed in the future, but for now this is the way that it works. So if I actually click on one of the user sessions, here we go, this is the case at the top. I've actually chosen a case for you that's already run before, so that you can see what it looks like, and user A66, so this is in room A66, so I know which group of students that is. Time taken, it took them 27 minutes to complete the case, so that's quite interesting to know in terms of did I give them long enough to do it or too long, etc. Are they rushing through it? And then it gives you this table. So this is the same table that the students will receive at the end of the session. Okay, so what happens here is it says STEM, and these are all the questions that I asked. Response, this is the student's response, so the answer they actually gave to the question. This is whether or not I told them what was correct. So if it's a multiple choice question, I can tell them what's correct. If it's a free text box or a drag and drop question, I can't tell them if it's correct. However, I can provide feedback. So this would be gold standard, or the answer that I was expecting them to give, and students can see this at the end of the case. If I wanted students to see this during the case, then it would be something that I could add to the following node after they've answered this question. As they click through the case. So as you can see, this group did quite well. They've obviously had a go at answering all of the questions. This is a drag and drop question, and this is the order that they've decided. I should have put feedback in here so they know maybe there isn't a correct option, or maybe there is. And then they've answered this quite well, which is good. They've engaged well. It looks like they've come all the way to the end of the case. And here, this is another drag and drop question, and I've obviously written this question doesn't have a specific correct answer, so we just wanted them to discuss it. Okay. Then at the bottom of the page here, it gives you some numbers, so it tells you the amount of time they spent on each node. I don't really find this information useful. Other people might find it useful. I think it's obviously just to see how long they kind of hovered on different areas for. And here it's got the same node printed twice, which means they actually went backwards in the case to maybe review something again. So it's quite interesting to know whether or not they just move forward on the case, or whether or not they flip between nodes to try and remind themselves about something. So that is how you can view the answers that your students have given.